buying an air dry clay geometric bud vase kit. In the kit you will have your clay, a sponge, your clay tools, your levelers, your clay scraper and your templates. You will also need a knife, preferably without a serrated edge, a rolling pin, a ruler and a little pot of water. Let's get started. As you'll notice, I'm working on a wooden board and this really helps absorb any moisture from the clay and just a really good surface to work on. So if you do have an old chopping board at home, then that is a really good place to start. You can also use your table or something that you don't mind getting some clay on it. So I've cut my clay in half, so I've got roughly 165 grams of clay here. It's just half the block, so you don't have to be too precious about it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of moulding it into a ball by slapping the sides of it almost. So I don't want to squidge it and get any air bubbles in it. So I'm just going to kind of hit it with the palm of my hand to get it into a nice ball. So you can hold it in one hand and kind of hit it with the other. So I've got a nice round ball of clay here now, and I'm going to grab my guides. So these are some sticks that are a nice kind of depth, and this will ensure that our clay is kind of an even depth the whole way across. So what I'm going to do is pop them on either side of my clay, with my clay in the middle. And you don't need to use these if you don't have them, but they are really helpful for getting it nice and even. And then I've got a rolling pin here, and I'm just going to start rolling my clay. And I'm going to flip it over from time to time and flip it vertically to horizontally as well, just to get a nice even roll. And you'll notice as you get closer down, your rolling pin will be stopped by the guides, and it will give you a consistent depth to your clay. Move them down if you're going down to the bottom a little bit. And you want it to be kind of a big circle, kind of oval shape. So now I've got my piece of clay all rolled out. I want to make my surface really smooth. Now you can pick which side you want to be your front and back. And I'm going to use this kind of scraper tool to just drag lightly across the surface, smooth the surface out. Do the other side, so carefully turn it over. And if you've got any cracking like this, you can add a tiny touch of water as well, just to re-moisten it a really little bit. You don't want to oversaturate your clay with water. So I'm just going to then see how those are kind of disappearing. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm happy with that. I'm going to just flip that over. So that's my front and this is my back. And I'm going to grab my templates. So you should have some templates in your kit. Just cut them out. If you want to draw your own, that's absolutely fine. Make sure that they're kind of roughly this size. If you want to do a bigger one, you will need to use all of your block of clay for the project. The clay is enough to make two small ones like the templates or one large one. So you can decide what you'd like to do. And I'm going to pop my template down, doesn't matter which way, onto my clay and grab my knife. So I've got my knife here, and what I'm going to do is just cut my piece, just like that. You could use a ruler along there if you want to get a really sharp line, or if you were using this one here, you might use a ruler just to get nice straight edges. And carefully, using this as a guide, really slow, with the tip of my knife, just cut my shape out. Once you've done that, you can take your template off and take any of your excess clay off to the side, pop that to one side, Just make sure you're happy with the shape. There's no kind of wee edges or anything. And what I'm going to do is just get a tiny wee bit of water on my sponge and just smooth off these edges as well. So I've moved my clay piece over to the side. If you don't want to risk moving it, use another piece of your board or a different board. And I'm just taking all my scraps of clay and I'm just scrunching them together to get them into a little ball. And then I'm going to do the same as before. I'm going to start slapping them to get that air out. Try not to create any air pockets. So this time I want to make a kind of oblong shape out of my clay. Got my clay guides back here. And I'm just going to roll out as before. So roll. This time I want to make a kind of long rectangle shape. So just be careful as you roll, you're not getting it uneven. You want it to be as even as you can. So. And then we're just going to do the same as before. I'm going to smooth off our surface. Then we're going to drag our smoothing tool just kind of across the surface. And you don't want to drag it at too much of a vertical angle. More kind of horizontal so it's not getting these kind of marks. You want to do it slightly. You can add a wee touch of water if you need to, not too much. So to get the height of the bud vase on the back, the little tube, we need to measure the height of our shape. So the height of this one that's for the template is 8. And we need the height of the bud kind of tube to be 7, so 1 centimetre less than the height. So if you're doing your own design, measure the height and then go 1 centimetre less. So that's why I said that this had to be 7 centimetres on the back here. And the width is 9. That's a really good width to roll it up into a really nice sized tube. So we need to do a 9 by 7 rectangle here. So I'm just having a wee look. I'm going to cut at an angle the edges, just so when we roll them up, we're not kind of butting two edges together. They're almost going to overlap ever so slightly and we'll get a nice smooth join. So what I mean by that is if you get your knife and you just, at the edge here, put it in, we're not chopping down, we're putting it at an angle, like a 45-degree angle. And I'm just kind of slicing along, like that. You can see you're just taking off a little bit of the clay, not much at all, just like this much. And then I'm going to flip this over, so flip it over that way, and then do this side. Exactly the same, just a wee bit off the side there. Oops. So you see I've cut there, and then I flipped it over, and cut there. And this means that when we put them round, they should overlap. So the next thing we need to do is add a little bit of friction, something for them to stick together to. So we're going to take a little jaggedy tool here. I'm just going to put a couple of dots all the way along, like that. See that edge? And then do the same on your other side. Get a little bit of water and put it along the edge there, and that's going to act as a glue almost. Do the same on the other side. Just a tiny bit, not too much. And it creates like a slip, some wet clay that's going to stick it together. Then what we're going to do is between my first finger and my second finger, I'm going to put the clay, hold it kind of like this, and then almost roll it round my finger. And you'll see what I mean about them kind of being able to join a little bit easier. Now this is tricky, and what I'm doing, see how they kind of slope together a little bit? Is with this hand, I'm smoothing across. Now I'm not pressing too hard because I don't want to get it too out of shape. Just smoothing the clay. Now this take a wee minute. It's tricky. Put your fingers in the middle. It's got almost something like a mould. I'm just smoothing that along. That's why you don't want too much water either, it gets really slippery. With this finger, just smoothing it that way. You can see it's starting to join. It will join, just be patient. Top there. And I'm not squeezing it. I'm not squeezing it together. I'm kind of almost just dragging the clay across a little bit. And when it's joined a little bit, I'm going to grab this tool here with a kind of almost a wee scoop on the end. I'm going to just start dragging it a little bit, just to smooth off that join, make sure it's completely joined. See at the bottom here it's a wee bit thin? Actually just going to overlap that a little bit more. So next thing we need to do is join our geometric piece and our vase piece together. So what I'm going to do is, again with my little jaggedy tool, is on the back, so decide whichever side you want to be the back of your shape. I'm going to drag some grooves like this and then go this way and then this way to make a kind of crosshatch effect. And again, this is just so we'll be able to stick it together. And then on the join side of your little vase, do exactly the same thing. Again, being careful because this is a wee bit more delicate. Just do it randomly. Then I'm going to, with my finger, get a little bit of water, make a slip, just a wee bit, and then I'm going to just pop it onto the grooves, hopefully lining up the bottom of the tube with the bottom of the shape. That will line up like this. So we need to finish off this kind of wee edge here. And what I want to do is just kind of get some of my scrap pieces of clay and roll them into kind of little worms almost, like this, and then fit them into these wee sections here like this. I'm going to take either this kind of tool here with the round bits on the ends, that's quite good, or you could use the pointed end or a little scoop tool. I'm going to use this one, and just push in your little worm into that gap. Carefully go around the corner. I'm going to get a wee bit of water. I'm going to use that to almost start making it one. So I'm just dragging it a wee bit, not gouging, I'm just dragging that clay, kind of attaching it to the top. A wee bit of clay, maybe even less than that. Put that along there. And I don't want to like mess up my edge here, so I'm just going to be really careful. A bit of water if you need it. And my little sponge to the corner, add that. Make sure my edge is nice. You can see that all kind of starting to blend together. So leave your piece to dry probably for like an hour or so facing down, and then if you can, without it going out of shape too much, we're going to bring it up just so it dries a bit quicker. If it's lying flat on the table surface, it takes forever to dry. So just try and lift it up if you can, fix any last little bits that need fixing. You shouldn't kind of wobble, you've got enough kind of support at the back. It should be straight, just straighten it up. Smooth off the side here. Front's looking okay. Front's looking okay. Get that into a nice shape. Perfect. So once they're fully dry, this should take a couple of days depending on the kind of heat of your room. You will be able to paint them, and you'll know they're dry when they completely change colour. You'll see that they're kind of a light cream colour here now, as opposed to kind of the brown colour they were before. And you can have a wee look at our instructions or our Instagram if you want some inspiration on how to paint them. But sometimes less is more, so you could do a kind of half and half design, you could just do the border, you could do stripes. It's really up to you. And remember to paint the back as well. Or if you're feeling like you just want to do an overall colour, then you can do that as well. So this is the creative bit really, you can do whatever you like. I'm going to do kind of rainbow design here, just why not? And these are acrylic paint, so if you've got other colours of acrylic paint that you want to use as well, then you can.